The host said their name, and the room looked at their shoes. Scuffed leather double-knotted. The man held a paper box with a purple ribbon a child had tied. The Viridian room glowed with hush and glass. A piano slept in the corner, its lid down. "Happy birthday," Maisie Olive said, when she reached them, apron tied twice hair pinned with a pencil. She smelled of rosemary and heat. Olive had insisted. "No arguments, Graham. I'm feeding you both." The host seated them by the piano. The old instrument had honeyed wood and a tired shine. Its lamp was on. Maybe it had been waiting. Maisie touched the closed lid. "Does it look like Mom's?" a little Graham said. "Mom's had a chip on middle C. I made that chip." Maisie smiled. "You learned to clap in time on it," he said. Olive leaned close. "The piano's tuned," she whispered. Olive Graham warned. "What some rooms deserve a right note." "We're guests tonight," he said. "You fixed my oven at midnight." "Let me do this," she answered. "Eat? Enjoy." Across the room, a table of investors lifted drinks toward a woman in a black dress. Sienna Graves. Names on doors tend to sit straighter. So did she. She had come for a pitch and a promise. She noticed a father who would not give up a paper-wrapped gift and a girl who greeted a piano like a friend. A shadow eased over the keys. A voice followed confident and loud. "Birthday in the fancy room," the man said. Cufflinks flashed. "What's a party without music?" He tapped the fallboard as if testing a wall. "We're doing fine," Graham said. Without a song, the man's smile cut to his companions. "I've got the perfect one. Everyone knows it, even the help." Olive stepped forward. Graham's hand met her elbow, small shake of the head. "It's okay," he said. "Is it?" she whispered. Maisie looked at her napkin folded like a swan. She had practiced her braid 10 times. Her palms pressed flat on the table. "Dad," she said softly. "It's okay." He knew which part she meant. Near the bar, the violinist glanced at the piano. The room was trained to ignore small cruelties. Money buys that training early. Sienna hadn't bought it. She caught the investor's name, Carter Beck, and filed it for later. "Sir," the host said, appearing politely, "please don't touch the instruments." Carter laughed. "I'll pay your tuning bill." His friends laughed too. He looked back at Graham. "Come on, Janitor. Play the one song your people never forget." Graham looked up with the steadiness of weathered stone. He let the moment fall. He did not pick it up. "We're here to eat cake," he said. "Some people don't know when to be grateful," Carter told his table. He leaned a knuckle on the lid. "Music makes the room better." "So does leaving people alone," Olive said. Chef Carter replied, turning the word into a toy. "I'm buying your beef. Don't burn it over a birthday." Sienna lifted her water. It tasted like the idea of water. She set it down and met Olive's eyes. "Hold the line," the look said. Sienna had meant to leave after her pitch. She wanted to see where this went. Dad Maisie said, "You told me rooms have more than one door." "They do," he said. "Then we can choose the one we came in," she whispered. He smiled with one corner of his mouth. "We're not leaving your cake." Olive barked a laugh like a skillet hitting flame. "Exactly. Cake first, arguments later." The host moved Carter's hand from the piano. The older waiter slid dessert plates onto Olive's station like quiet reinforcements. The room tried to resume its hum china voices, the violinist tuning silently. Graham opened the paper box. Inside lay a small music box he had cleaned and oiled. Brass, bright spring smooth. For later, he told Maisie. "When we're home." She turned the key, one click. No sound yet. She closed her fist over the winder as if holding a wish steady. Carter called, cheerful and sharp, "Tell you what, I'll make it interesting." He slid a card onto the piano. $5,000 if you can make me stop talking." Some diners laughed the laugh people use when they want courage to sound like humor. Graham didn't reach for the card. He folded the tissue paper the way you fold a flag. "Not tonight," he said. "It's my daughter's day." Then, for the girl, Carter said, Sienna's jaw tightened. Charity with a camera was still a camera. Staff shifted, waiting for a cue. She let the moment breathe. Maisie slipped from her chair and placed her palm on the lid, fingers spread. "Hi," she whispered to it. "We're not ready yet." Graham watched her and felt the familiar ache settle where silence lives. Dignity is often quieter than applause. He drank his water. He set it down. He could feel Olive's worry, the host's stiff smile, the violinist's held breath, the woman in black's attention like a steady flame. Table 36. Olive called, clapping, "Once brace yourselves. The roast chicken might ruin you for other chicken." Relief laughter broke. The kitchen window banged open and shut. Someone hummed a scrap of melody. Graham leaned toward Maisie. "We eat," he said. "We thank Olive. We go home." "And the piano?" she asked. He looked at the fallboard and saw his reflection faint in candlelight. "It knows we're here," he said. Sienna stared at her water and, for once, didn't drink. She typed a note she would not send. He refuses the performance that costs him himself. She put the phone away and watched the two of them break bread like it could make the room kinder. When the cake came vanilla with lemon curd and a blueberry border, Olive slid it in like a magician candle, small and brave. Maisie's grin rose into its own light. Olive nodded at the violinist. He lifted his bow and looked at Graham for permission. Graham shook his head once. "Tonight," Olive said, "we let the quiet sing." Maisie drew a breath, cheeks full of wish air. She shut her eyes, then opened them to her father. "Is it okay?" she whispered. "If I wish for you too?" "Always," he said. She blew out the candle. Smoke curled like a ribbon learning to dance. Carter clapped. "There," he announced. A songless song. Graham didn't answer. He cut the first slice and set it on Maisie's plate, steady as gravity. Sienna lifted her glass at last. The water rinsed something sharp away. She thought of budgets and decks and all the ways she had traded warmth for clarity. She made another note she did not send. Sometimes the bravest thing is to leave the lid closed. The tuned piano waited. It would keep waiting. Rooms remember. So do people. In this room, music has a price his dignity does not. The room tried to stitch itself back together. Forks resumed their search for plates. Conversation rose like spackle over a crack. But pride wants witnesses. Carter Beck raised a hand at the pianist. "Take 5, he said, claiming the air. The pianist's fingers hovered, then folded. Silence opened between courses. Olive stepped from the kitchen pass. "Sir, the band is part of service," she said. "We keep the flow. We're changing the flow." Carter patted the closed piano. "Every room deserves its song." Graham brushed a crumb from Maisie's lip with a napkin corner. He kept his eyes on his daughter. He had learned to look where love lived, not where noise insisted. "Dad," Maisie whispered, "is he going to make you?" "No one makes anyone," he said. "We choose." The host approached, polite as linen. "Mr. Beck, please return to your table." "I'm inspired," Carter said, turning to the room. "Friends, we have a miracle. A birthday girl. A father. A piano. I say we let the night remember us." Polite laughter traveled the tables and died. Sienna Graves watched without blinking. Her phone stayed face down. Olive's hand settled on Graham's shoulder like ballast. "You don't owe him a breath," she said. "I know," Graham answered, "but I owe her a day." He nodded toward Maisie. Carter dragged a chair to the piano and stood on it as if mounting a stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sir the host said, "firmer, please." Carter hopped down and bowed at the rules. His companions snapped their fingers. The sound was small and mean. Chef Carter called to Olive, "Put this on my tab." He tapped the fallboard. "I'll cover whatever song the room wants." He turned to Maisie. "How about it, little Miss Daddy plays you get a second cake?" Maisie set her fork down carefully. Careful was a language in their house. "No thank you," she said. "Oh, manners," Carter grinned. "He taught you that. Let him teach you music." Olive took a step. Graham caught her sleeve and shook his head. "Let him spend his words," he murmured. "Ours are for later." Sienna noted it. No defense, no excuses. Control without show. "Here's my offer," Carter said, sliding a crisp envelope onto the piano like chips across felt. $5,000 to the girls' college fund if you can make me cry. "I warn you, I don't cry easily." "You do, today," someone said. Laughter scraped the china. Maisie turned to her father. She did not plead. Permission given to someone you love is quiet. You promised, she said, that today I would have my own song. Graham looked at her, and in the lid's gloss saw another face thin, brave, patient, framed by a scarf. He carried a photo with softened edges, a private reliquary. He didn't show it. He only held it with his eyes until his hands steadied. In through the nose, out through the mouth. A rhythm learned in rooms that smelled like disinfectant and stale coffee. Olive read the breath like a count-in. "We can move your table," she said. "Window seat." Less crowd. "We'll stay," he said. The host placed the envelope back in Carter's palm. "We don't run transactions on instruments," he said. "Or people." "Well," Carter replied, "someone runs something." He lifted his voice. "Do we want to hear a song, or watch a man hide?" A few claps popped like popcorn. Most faces stayed undecided. No one wants to be the second person to be unkind. Sienna stood and crossed to Olive's station. "May I have a glass of hot water?" Olive blinked. "Of course." Sienna returned with the steaming glass and set it by the cake. For the candle, she told Maisie a small smile. So the room remembers what the night is about. Maisie's shoulders dropped. "Thank you," she said. Carter rolled his eyes. "We're baptizing desserts now." Graham finally looked at him. Not long, just enough to let the look land. Then he turned to the pianist, a young woman with a name tag that read, Lena. "Would you mind," he asked, "playing something light for table 36? My daughter likes the parts that sound like rain." Lena glanced at the band leader. His shrug meant yes. She touched the keys and found a Debussy prelude that scattered notes like water. The room softened. Raindrops obey no man's timetable, not even Carter's. Carter laughed, hiding behind someone else's hands. "Are we, sir the host?" said, "Patience thinning." "Please." Olive cut a second slice. "Insurance," she told Maisie, "in case your wish needs backup." The girl ate like a person memorizing a map. Graham watched steady as a metronome. His calm was not emptiness, it was choice. The tune drifted and settled. Lena eased into a cadence that sounded like someone's kitchen on a Sunday. Conversation thawed. Even the silverware learned softer angles. Carter tried once more. He lifted the envelope like a trophy bell. "Last call," he said. $5,000, 1 minute. Make me feel something." Sienna leaned forward. "You might try feeling first," she said. Not loud. Close enough to matter. Carter smiled with the confidence of a man who never lost an argument he could afford to leave. "Miss Graves isn't it. You and I sell feeling for a living." "I sell attention," she said. "Feeling is what people bring." He raised the envelope higher as if exposure multiplied value. "Janitor, he called you in or out." Graham's hands lay flat on the cloth. He looked at his daughter, then at the piano, then at the door. The room tilted toward him like a tide. He pictured the walk and the way the world goes quiet when wood and felt and air agree. He touched the photo in his wallet and slid it away. "Maisie," he said. "Yes. What would you like to hear if no one else were here?" She thought 9 years visible on her face. "The one you wrote that never had a name," she said. "The one you hum when you fix the leaky sink." Graham nodded. "That one." He looked at Olive. "If the room forgets itself, remind it." "I keep a ladle," she said, "and a temper." He looked at Sienna. He had not meant to, but he did. She held his gaze the way people hold a door, not pushing, only making space. He pushed his chair back. The legs made a small respectful sound against the floor. Carter spread his arms. Finally he said, triumph leaking. A man who knows his place. Graham stood and smoothed his jacket as if ironing courage into it. He turned to Maisie. We finish your slice after he said. That's the law. She nodded, cheeks bright. He breathed once, then twice. He counted in silently, 1 and 2, and he stepped forward. He was not walking to a piano. He was walking through everything he had been asked to be and into what he chose to give. If he must play, he will speak in his own language. He crossed the floor like a man testing a bridge. Shoes breathed the soft exhale of napkins as heads turned. He didn't look at Carter or the envelope. He looked at the lamp clipped to the stand, the tiny switch that could make a corner into a small sun. Lena slid off the bench. It's yours, she whispered, easing the seat back and folding her hands as if reminding them to be quiet. Graham touched the fallboard with the backs of his fingers, a greeting. Warm wood, familiar weight. He lifted the lid. Black and white waited like a row of plain truths. Someone coughed. Someone shooshed. Carter took a half step back to give himself the pose of a host. Olive stood at the pass with a ladle and a prayer. Sienna felt the room change, no mysticism, just physics. One intention retuned the air. He clicked the lamp on. The light made a stage out of 3 feet of floor. He sat and shifted an inch left so his right shoulder wouldn't block Maisie's view. Heel down, fingers hovering. Maisie put both hands on the table to keep from wringing them. Count the silence before you count the notes, an old voice said. He counted 2 measures of it. The room held still. The first harmony wasn't loud. It arrived like a window opening to the right weather. The left hand laid a drone that could have been a heart when it's not afraid. The right traced the simplest melody we teach to children, the one with a candle on top. Happy birthday, only it wasn't. He tucked the tune into middle voices where memory hides, gave it a box spine, and let it learn to breathe. The bass walked like a patient in a hallway, slow, careful, gaining confidence. Carter's grin flickered. He had expected a stumble or a spectacle, not reverence. Lena bit her lip. Dress a nursery tune in counterpoint and it becomes what it always wanted, gratitude with a backbone. Olive's ladle lowered. Line cooks froze behind the pass, listening with aprons on like parishioners who drifted in off the street. Sienna's shoulders dropped. The left hand said he'd learned to play through panic. The right said he'd learned to sleep beside illness. Control here wasn't the opposite of feeling. It was the cup that held it. He moved the melody into the top so Maisie could catch it, then answered with the lullaby he hummed when the sink cried at night. He braided the 2 lines until they shared a breath. The soundboard gathered it and sent it into the stemware. Maisie's mouth made a small O. In the space between notes, she heard her mother. She heard herself at 3 and 5 and last week when the music box needed coaxing. A fork fell and didn't matter. The maitre d' let a party of 4 wait because time had bent in the middle. At the edge of a cadence you can land or look farther. He leaned past expectation and let the tension bloom into beauty. A high, thin note hung like a candle's last brave thread. Maisie's face lifted into it. Carter swallowed. He hated that it had happened without him. Warmth returned. A touch of syncopation, nothing flashy, just a heartbeat remembering it had danced once. 4 minor bars cast a soft shadow so the light would mean something when it came back. When it came back, the room knew it. Shoulders breathed. The hostess's tight smile unclenched. A server who'd been holding plates like shields put them down like gifts. Sienna realized she was standing and sat aware of her hands. Graham softened the sound until the piano spoke, bedside soft. He repeated the first phrase once, then folded the ending inward so it finished where it had started the song, walking the girl home and leaving her at the door. He lifted his hands. No flourish, no pedal wash, no glance to collect a verdict. The room didn't clap. Not yet. A certain silence isn't the absence of sound but the presence of meaning. It filled the Viridian room to the corners. Olive breathed out first like someone who had found the surface. Then the applause came, not the greedy kind that asks to be seen applauding, but the human kind that says, "Thank you for reminding us where we keep the keys." Carter's hands moved slower than his face wanted. He looked at the envelope and set it on the lid with the care you use for things that suddenly don't matter. Lena touched the bench with her fingertips as if to bless it and stepped aside. Graham didn't bow. He clicked off the lamp. The small sun went dark and the corner returned to being a corner. He stood and turned to his daughter. Maisie was crying the way bodies decide for you. She wiped her nose with her wrist and laughed at herself. He reached for her. She stood small and fierce and pressed her forehead to his shirt. "Happy birthday," he whispered. "To both of us," she said. He lowered the fallboard until wood met keys without a click left his palm there a beat longer, then let go. He didn't look at Carter. He didn't look for Sienna. He walked back the way he'd come, a man leaving a small chapel after lighting a candle no one could charge him for. He sat. He cut the cake into even squares. He slid one to her and one to himself. The applause thinned and settled. Travelers glanced at one another with the startled kindness of people who realize they've survived the same weather. The envelope lay on the piano like a wrong answer to a better question. Graham drank his water and set it down steady. Across the room, Sienna exhaled and wrote nothing at all. Some moments are finished by being left alone. He didn't wait for a verdict. He didn't need one. He took Maisie's hand under the cloth and with the other reached for his fork. Music doesn't ask for your job title. Applause rose carefully like people waking and remembering where they were. The Viridian room moved again. Trays lifted water poured, but the rhythm had changed. Forks met plates with a softer touch. On the piano, an envelope sat like a noisy idea the room had outgrown. Olive tapped the pass. 36 keeps it gentle, she told her line as if generosity could be plated. Carter Beck performed a shrug for witnesses. "There we go," he said, angling for ownership he hadn't earned. Graham didn't look up. He cut Maisie's cake into small squares and handed her a fork. She tapped the music box with one fingernail. No sound, just hello. Sienna stood without planning to. She threaded through tables, rested a hand on the empty chair back, and offered the sentence she had carried across the room. "I didn't think you were a janitor," she said. Graham met her eyes. Music doesn't ask for a resume. Olive arrived with sugared berries. "She's Sienna," she said, setting the bowl down. "Names keep the room human. Thank you for Sienna stopped before adding too much, for letting the quiet sing." It was her birthday, Graham said, nodding at Maisie, and the room was loud. Maisie studied the woman in black. "You didn't laugh at us," she said. "No." Sienna glanced at the envelope on the lid. "I don't like when money tries to talk first." "It has a voice," Graham said. "It shouldn't be the first one," Sienna answered, surprised at her own honesty. She looked at Maisie. "Happy birthday." "Thank you," the girl said. My wish sounded like walking home. "Good night," Sienna said, and stepped away before the moment had to carry more than it could. Carter peeled his envelope off the piano and tucked it into his jacket. "No hard feelings," he said in passing, clapping Graham's shoulder. Olive's look removed his hand for him. The band returned to its lane. People finished dinners with the small reverence that follows a real thing. Sienna left a thank you with the host and stepped into the city's October breath. She walked instead of calling a car. At a corner she typed Graham Porter Juilliard. Few results. An old piece prodigy withdraws from Juilliard scholarship student family matters. Pause, no comment. A grainy image, younger thrift coat, hands in pockets as if tired of strangers searching them for music. She hovered and typed Porter plus cancer, then deleted it. You don't need articles for shapes you recognize waiting rooms antiseptic in your clothes bills that ask whether love can afford to be love. Inside, the late seating thinned. Olive made a water round that refused to triage kindness. "You two, okay?" "We are," Graham said. Back door, Olive offered. Less eyes. Front, he said. Always the front with her. Maisie wrapped the candle nub in a napkin as if saving a coin from a country that no longer minted it. Lena hovered by the piano. Chef, Mr. Porter. I ran a line to the board. For reference. If you want a copy, I can send the raw file. Graham looked at Maisie. What do you think does it keep the quiet? You can hear the room stop, Lena said. Then yes, Maisie replied. But please don't put it online. Never, Lena said, and meant it. She wrote her number on a folded place card. Olive slipped it into Graham's palm. They paid what Olive would allow, which wasn't much. Graham thanked the host and hugged Olive with the careful gratitude New Yorkers use when they love you but don't want a scene. Then he and Maisie stepped into crisp air. Manhattan breathed without checking a watch. Dad, she asked, swinging his hand. Yes, love. Is it okay to feel like laughing and crying at the same time? That's how you know a song fits, he said. They walked home through blocks that knew them. In the apartment, the radiator ticked like a forgiving metronome. Graham set the music box on the dresser and wound it once. Its bright tines gave a tin echo of what the piano had said. He placed a photo beside it, her mother's scarf tied like a flag no one wanted but wore anyway. A memory came and went. White room chair that reclined too easily, a nurse calling a number, her voice saying, "Play for me when you want to run." Tonight his hands had not trembled. Maisie brushed her teeth with too much toothpaste. She climbed into bed and patted the space beside her. He sat and smoothed her hair the way you smooth a thought before you leave it alone. Mom would have liked the part that sounded like stairs, she mumbled. She would, he said. He didn't add that the part had been hers first. Play again on Sunday. Sunday, he agreed, and the small days in between. When her breath found its even river, he washed 2 plates, opened the window a finger, and turned off the kitchen light. The apartment, long shoebox, generous square of sky held what they needed. Across town, Sienna sat at her kitchen island, the article still open. She drafted a note to her foundation's director. There is a man who understands what our work is for. Do not approach him like a project. If we ask anything, we ask permission to listen. If he says no, we turn that no into policy. She didn't send it. She wrote on a pad instead, "Dignity needs quiet." Beneath it, "Make room for rooms to be quiet." She looked at her shelves and felt the precise loneliness of a place optimized to impress and not to hold. A glass of water stood half drunk. She finished it. She wanted for once to begin rather than conclude. She closed the laptop and laid her palm on the cool lid like a promise she could not yet name. The city murmured and didn't ask her for anything. Rare gift. Back in the small apartment, Graham checked on Maisie. She had rolled onto her side hand under cheek, a posture she might keep if life was generous. He kissed the back of her head, turned off the lamp, and let the dark find its level. He sat with the photo and the quiet. He didn't pray, he thanked. There is a difference. He practiced both. On his phone, a new message blinked. Olive had forwarded Lena's number with a note, "Raw audio if you want it." He didn't press play. He set the phone face down and let tonight be tonight. Across the room, the music box waited the way a friend waits, present, patient, no knocking. The question came anyway and sat beside him. He didn't answer it, but he let it stay. Why would a prodigy choose silence? Morning was rinsed and bright, the kind of October light that makes even scaffolding look intentional. Graham cracked eggs while the music box watched from the dresser. At the table, Maisie colored a lighthouse red and white bands, a yellow beam skimming pencil fog. Toast or no toast, he asked. Toast, she said. Butter to the corners. He spread it like hope lived in edges. After breakfast, he zipped her coat, tucked the music box in his pocket, promises travel, and walked her down 4 flights to the street that knew their names. He took the long route home past the saxophone mural that had outlasted 2 mayors. His phone buzzed an email like a bird at the window. He waited for the honest kitchen light before he read it. From a personal address, Sienna Graves. Mr. Porter, I don't want to take anything from last night. I do want to make room for what you gave. I'm piloting community music sessions for kids who rarely get the front row. Would you consider a private sound check with our team? No press, no stage, no stories that don't belong to you. I can come to you. If this is a boundary I shouldn't knock on, I'll back away. Sienna. He read it twice. The sentences kept their hands to themselves. He respected that. He wiped the counter before he answered, as if tidying the reply too. Thank you. I'm honored you asked. I'm not available for a sound check or a session. Last night was for my daughter. Send. The plane icon flew into a square that meant delivered. Across town, Sienna felt the strange relief of a clear, no barbs, no bargaining. Boundaries spoken kindly make rooms kinder. She allowed herself one more knock. Understood. This isn't about buying your playing. It's about making room for those who need it. We'll route compensation to the program or wherever you choose. If the answer is still no, I'll leave it. Do you need anything? He considered letting it sit like a leaf on water until current carried it away. Better to make the river clear. Thank you. I don't play to sell. I play for people I love. That's only about me. He added the period and honored it. He put the phone face down and listened to the apartment breathe. Sienna stared at the finality with professional respect and human disappointment. Refusal in her world was usually a pose. This wasn't. She closed the laptop, put on a coat, and walked to a park that holds both strollers and retirements. She chose a bench half in sun. On the next bench, a girl with a purple backpack swung her feet and drew a lighthouse whose beam looked suspiciously like hope. Your light finds everyone, Sienna said. The girl measured Sienna like a jury of one. It's for people who are lost or scared, she said, and also for people who just want to see their house better. That's a good also, Sienna said. Birthday colors. Red and white, the girl said. I'm 9. Happy 9. The girl studied her, then asked, Are you the woman who didn't laugh? It startled Sienna with its accuracy. I wanted to keep the quiet safe, she said. Good. The quiet was the best part. She flipped a page. A piano with a lamp became a small sun. Do you like music? I buy microphones, Sienna said. Sometimes I forget to listen. Listening is what the song is, for the girl decided. Also hugs, she added, matter of fact. When my dad plays, his eyes smile like windows open. Sienna felt something in her chest move where it belonged. Does he play a lot? Not for people, the girl said. For me. For Mom, when she was here. He plays when someone needs it, not when someone asks. Sienna stepped carefully. I emailed your dad about a program. Did you say please? I did. Did he say no? He did. Nicely. Then it was a good no, she said. Good no's leave room for yes later if yes belongs. She offered a pencil. Want a red? Sienna, colored one stripe like she was signing a contract. I'm Sienna, Maisie, the girl said, like introducing a friend she trusted with her house. A distant bell rang. Sienna stood. I'll return your red next time. Keep it, Maisie said, for when you want to listen. Sienna pocketed the pencil like a promise she'd owe if she lost. Tell your dad thank you for last night. He'll say it was for me, Maisie said, but he'll like that you noticed. Back home, Graham dried a plate that didn't need drying domestic scales after rehearsal. Olive texted, Lena has the raw audio if you want it. He typed, not yet. He wound the music box once and let it climb halfway. Some songs work better unfinished on purpose. That evening, Sienna wrote her foundation an email she could send without hating herself later. There is a man who knows what our work is for. Do not pursue. If he ever comes to us, we receive him with no cameras and no terms. Build the program as if he never will and make it worthy anyway. Send. The room felt like air after a window you didn't know about opens. She set the red pencil on her desk where she could not miss it. Listen. 2 days later, the program director texted a flyer, "Saturday Community Music Hour, no spotlight. All welcome." Sienna typed, "I know someone," then deleted it. If a yes was meant, it would walk on its own feet. The week turned its pages. Graham worked, washed, bought good apples. He tuned a neighbor's thrifted keyboard and left a note Middle C hums. Be kind to it. At the park bench, he found a red pencil stub on the ground and pocketed it. Promises travel both ways. Saturday brought a thin parade of high school band warm-ups. Graham brewed coffee and hot chocolate. "Art at the library at 10, he said. "Can we pass the community center?" Maisie asked. "I want to see their sign." They walked by. The flyer was taped a little crooked. "No spotlight. All welcome." Maisie grinned. They listened. "They did," he said. He could have kept walking. He almost did. Then a small hand tugged his sleeve. "No pull, just ask." Hope looked up through windows. "Dad?" She said what if someone needs it? He took a breath that tasted like October and decision. "We'll look in," he said. "Just look." Inside, no cameras, no stage. A circle of chairs, a piano with its lid already open, a lamp making its small sun. Volunteers smiled with the relief of people not asked to sell anything. He didn't move forward. Not yet. He set the red pencil on the sign-in table like a compass everyone could borrow. He smiled at the volunteer and reached for the visitor form, slow as a man who knows a yes should arrive in its own time. Across town, Sienna clipped her hair back and read the flyer again on her phone without forwarding it. She ordered folding chairs, then canceled the rush fee. "You can't hurry a room." She added a budget line. "Quiet ushers trained to protect silence." She smiled at the words. Back by the door, Graham listened. A boy plunked a tentative scale. A grandmother humming harmony corrected nothing but made it better. Maisie squeezed his hand and let go the brave kind of let go. He could feel the room asking not with mouths, but with need. He had learned to hear that question and not betray it by answering too soon. He turned the visitor form over and wrote neatly on the back, "If you ever need help lifting the lid, ask for Graham." He set the pen down like a small key and stepped aside to let the morning be the morning. He plays when someone needs it, not when money asks. The sign on the community center door was plain, "No spotlight. All welcome. Please listen." Inside, metal chairs formed a circle. A lamp on the piano warmed one corner. Volunteers wore badges, quiet usher ASL support. Graham paused at the threshold with Maisie. "Library, instead?" he asked. "We can go after," she said, folding the flyer into a smaller yes. Sienna came alone and sat in the back. A grandmother guided a girl to the chair nearest the lid. 2 braids purple hearing aid hands tucked into sleeves like butterflies. "I'm Mrs. Delgado," the grandmother told a volunteer. "This is Ruthie." She tapped 2 fingers against her chin and forward, "Thank you in ASL." The interpreter signed back. "We're glad you're here." Graham opened the lid halfway and set a folded towel on the soundboard. He sat, leaving space on the bench. He touched chest and wrist. "We'll learn to hear with our hands," he said. "Notes aren't required. A pulse is here and here." The interpreter mirrored him. Ruthie watched both. First rule, he added. "When we finish, we don't clap. We raise our hands and shake them quiet applause. Let the quiet finish the song." He demonstrated. Small hands copied him. He played a single low note. Then another with space between like steps on carpet. "Count the air," he said. 1. 2. He slid a paper cup to Ruthie. "Hold this on the wood. Feel what sound borrows." Ruthie pressed the cup. Paper trembled. Her eyes widened, then narrowed with attention. He set a balloon on the lid and pressed it until it barely dimpled. "Try the balloon," he said. "Paper, rubber, skin, see what changes." She moved from cup to balloon to palm. Her motion said again. Now, everyone he told the circle. Palm to piano. Don't push. Let the wood talk. He arpeggiated a root and fifth, simple as 2 porch steps. He slowed his right hand until each note arrived like a friend from far away. Ruthie frowned. Shake, but no shape yet. Graham lifted the towel a little. He tapped his wrist twice, then 3 times, then twice. Boom-ba, boom-ba-ba, boom-ba. The interpreter signed. Mrs. Delgado placed Ruthie's hand on her pulse. Pattern found body. Good, he said, warm and quiet. He dropped the melody closer to the board and tapped the lid with his left in the same pattern, 2 paths to the same door. Sienna leaned forward and stopped herself. She watched knots leave Ruthie's shoulders strand by strand. Ruthie tried the cup again, then the balloon, then nothing. She lifted her free hand and signed careful but clear, again. Graham played it again, adding a thread he had woven at the restaurant, hidden at first, then surfacing like trust. Ruthie's fingers spread wider. Again. Faster. He smiled. Of course, children learned the sign and answered with a dozen agains. Ruthie giggled without sound and pressed her cheek to the lid. Vibration made her braid dance. Now, you, Graham said to a boy with tense shoulders. He slid back so the boy could take the keys. 2 notes he coached, root and fifth. Stairs. The boy played. The balloon bobbed. Ruthie tapped her wrist to count the air and signed good without looking up. Graham lifted 2 fingers toward Ruthie's shoulder and waited. Mrs. Delgado nodded. He tapped the pulse he'd been playing. Ruthie matched taps on the lid, then on her wrist, then on her chest. She looked up certain now and signed, feel. Hands lifted around the circle's silent applause, a small forest of yes. Sienna exhaled as if a window had opened. She slid her phone under her chair. Every song is a ladder, Graham told them. Today we found the rung called I'm Not Afraid. He played 4 clean measures and stopped before the 5th on purpose. The room finished the rest with stillness. Break came. Volunteers set out clementines and water. Ruthie peeled one with surgeon focus and handed a crescent to Graham like a toll paid to kindness. He accepted it like sacrament. Sienna waited by the cooler. No cameras, she said, no spotlights. Thank you for letting me be here. You helped make the room, he said. Thank you for not trying to own it. She nodded at a badge. Quiet ushers. We'll fund more of those. Fund the cups and balloons, he said. They do heavy lifting. Done, she said. May I send coffee next week? Quiet coffee. Coffee can be quiet if lids behave. Their smiles didn't hurry into anything else. Maisie brought 2 clementines. Payment, she told Sienna. For listening. Best invoice I've had in years, Sienna said. She looked at Ruthie now, letting her grandmother lay a palm over her hands while she pressed the lid. There are things I can't buy, she admitted. Plenty you can build, Graham said, as long as the door stays open both ways. He invited hands back to wood. This time, he said, I'll play less. You'll feel more. He barely brushed a chord. The room supplied the rest. Ruthie closed her eyes and signed home without lifting her hands. When the hour ended, volunteers stacked chairs like folded prayers. People lingered for permission to return not autographs. Ruthie carried the balloon like a trophy from a kingdom someone finally showed her a map to. At the door, Sienna paused. I'll keep promises simple, she said. No billboards, no campaigns with your face. Keep the room honest, he said. That's the promise. Mrs. Delgado squeezed his hand. She hasn't trusted music since the surgery, she said. Today, she told me with her hands. She signed, thank you, and then braved to Ruthie to Graham to the circle. Outside October wore its best light. Maisie tucked the flyer like a passport. Graham lowered the lid and clicked off the lamp. The warm square vanished. The corner became a corner again. He looked once at the circle of chairs, the balloon, the paper cups like small moons. He took nothing except a question he now liked better because it had an answer he could hold. There are songs you hear with your hands before your ears ever learn them. Olive slid a toad across the pass at closing. Chicken thighs, rosemary, a lemon that shines. Cook at home. Invite the woman in black. If not, feed a neighbor. Graham smiled. You run a kitchen and a life. I run. Heat, Olive said. Salt yours, right. He texted Sienna dinner. Wednesday simple, at hours. She replied almost at once. Yes. What can I bring? He wrote, yourself, and if possible, quiet. She sent a red pencil. The apartment readied itself by hand. Maisie centered her drawing's lighthouse piano lamp, 3 stick figures holding hands. Graham ironed the single tablecloth he kept for days that asked to be remembered. Sienna arrived early with a hardy plant and the careful energy of someone entering a story she didn't want to bend. May I help? You can squeeze the lemon, Graham said. Corners matter. Maisie taught me, Sienna said. The music box sat closed on the dresser. Beside the stove, the cassette player waited. Graham pressed play. A woman's voice filled the room. Hush, now, river light. Thank you for letting me hear. Her, Sienna said. She sings better with company, he said. Dinner was honest roasted chicken with lemon buttery potatoes, green beans that still remembered the garden. They ate without hurry. Conversation found a level Maisie's art class, Ruthie's balloon at the community hour, a neighbor's keyboard that hummed on middle C until Graham left a note. Will the program keep its shape? Graham asked. It will, if we choose the room over the story, Sienna said. That's the muscle I'm trying to grow. She hesitated. After the birthday, I searched your name. I figured he said not unkind. I found one headline, she said. Then silence. I filled in what I shouldn't. I left school. I married brave. I learned hospitals. I learned to go to work. He paused. The spine. And the music. Music is a country that doesn't revoke your passport, he said. You don't lose citizenship because you decline parades. After dishes, Maisie slid a thin envelope with a gold return address from the shelf. Show her, Graham nodded. Sienna read the letter on paper that thought highly of itself a renowned agency inviting Mr. Porter to a re-debut series travel arranged fee, generous exclusivity expected. The date was 6 months ago. The offer had expired. You never wrote back, she said. I didn't. They would have treated you like an equal, she said. They would have treated me like a story, he said. A useful one. Isn't a story what we are? He gestured to the cast-iron pan. Sometimes a man needs to be a kitchen-seasoned useful quiet. Not on a poster. Maisie climbed into his lap. Mom said when your hands tremble again because of music, don't hide it from people who need it, she said. It's on the tape. Sienna glanced at the cassette. Do your hands tremble now? They do, he said, fixing a sink, thinking about Ruthie. Trembling isn't the same as performing. What is it? Permission, he said. To be of use. Silence sat with them. Outside, a bus sighed. The plant decided to live. Sienna rested her forearms on the table. I came ready to accuse your hiding. This envelope says you're choosing. She weighed the words. I don't want to wake a genius. I want to respect a choice. You already did, he said. No spotlight. A room that listens. She smiled. Some investors call that naive. My daughter calls it true. Maisie set the red pencil between them like a treaty. If you sign something, make it small. What should it say? Keep the room honest, Maisie said. Sienna looked at Graham. One more question. You can throw me out for it. Throwing people out is loud, he said. Ask. If I ask again later, not now for help as a teacher of rooms, not a headliner. Would you consider it? I already am, he said, tipping his head toward the lighthouse drawing. One room at a time. That's the lesson, she murmured. Rooms, not audiences. He walked her to the door. Thank you for dinner, she said. For the tape. For the letter I didn't earn. You needed to know, he said. I did. And I do. She touched the frame. You're not avoiding the stage. You're refusing to sell a private language. He didn't correct her. On the stairs, she paused. If I turn your no into content, tell me. I'll fix it where people can see. You won't, he said. You brought a plant. People who bring living things usually mean it." She started down, then looked back. "For what it's worth, I think your hands are already doing what she asked. You're not hiding. You're pointing." After she left, the apartment kept the shape of her presence like a cord after the pedal lifts. Graham washed the plates. Maisie returned the envelope to the shelf and then hid it behind a book. "It doesn't need to look at us," she said. "It doesn't." He agreed. He rewound the tape to a place he knew by heart. The voice returned steady, a woman making a promise she believed he would keep. "When your hands begin to shake again for music, don't lock it away. Give it to people who need it. Then come home and be my quiet." He pressed pause and let the sentence sit. Bedtime waited in the doorway. Maisie hugged Sienna's plant like a blessing, then went to brush her teeth. Sienna stepped into the street and looked up. In the window, a father and daughter moved past a square of light. She touched the pencil in her pocket and for once didn't think about brands or leverage. She thought about the difference between genius and goodness, and how rare it was to watch them choose each other. Later at the table, Graham set his hands open like a man receiving. The tape lay still. The envelope slept behind a book. His phone stayed face down. He didn't plan a return. He didn't plan an exit. He planned a life he could hum. He wasn't hiding. He was choosing. By Monday, the quiet had company. A phone clip from the far corner of the Viridian room hit the feeds. They mocked the janitor at his daughter's birthday. Then this happened. Sideways frame, harsh audio, but the shape was there. Graham at the lamp, the hush a small hand on his sleeve. Comments split. Faith in humanity restored. "This is staged. Who brings a kid there?" The counter sprinted. Reaction videos argued about class. A think piece pasted his face under a headline about humility. Lena texted Olive, "Not mine. I didn't post. Raw stays with Graham unless he asks." Olive replied with a heart and a pan. By noon, Carter Beck had an agency on a call. "We do a redemption gala," he said. "My foundation covers it. We call it a bridge. Exclusivity," his publicist asked. "Naturally," Carter said. "The story is mine to make right." He emailed the Viridian room marked urgent and blind copied a board member who owed him a favor. At the restaurant, Olive was called into the office by a manager with a spreadsheet smile. "You comped the meal?" he asked, tapping a cell labeled totals. "I did," Olive said. "I invited them." "Policy is one birthday dessert," he said. "Comp culture invites freeloaders." He slid a form across. "HR needs this signed." Olive signed. "Don't confuse guideline with gospel," she said and left before the dignity in her knees gave out. Across town, Sienna's phone stormed. A venture partner's voicemail, optics, freebie. Package the janitor as mentor. A board member texted, "Is he your employee risk?" Donations labeled for the janitor and his little girl hit the foundation inbox. Sienna routed every dollar to the program and set an auto-reply. "We are not the story. The room is." She walked to the community center and stopped at the door. The flyer still hung crooked. "No spotlight. All welcome. Please listen." On the bench outside, she called Graham. "Your name isn't in the clip," she said, "but the internet doesn't need names." "I know. People want you to headline a gala," she said. "They're calling it restorative." "Restoration isn't an audience," he said. "It's a repair you do in a small light. I can decline for you. You don't owe me that," he said. "But I won't play a man's apology into microphones." "Thank you," she said. I needed the sentence. In a glass conference room, she faced a semicircle of investors. A social lead clicked to a mock The Listening Gala, presented by Beck and Graves. Metrics marched across the slide. Co-presented, Sienna asked. "Brand alignment," the lead said. "We bake redemption into the narrative." And the janitor, another, asked, "He's the hook." "Does he speak?" "He plays Sienna," said. "But not for us." A partner steepled fingers. "We respect ethics. We also respect virality. This is a flywheel moment. We'll fund the program," Sienna said. We won't sell the person. If we hold anything, it's no spotlight. The program goes on the poster. Or there is no poster. Shuffle. Compromise words, pilot, limited test, and learn. Someone asked if she was emotionally entangled. Yes, she said. With the mission. In the hall, her comms director said, "Off the record, some bored voices think you'll pick principal over scale. If I don't, she said we don't deserve scale." The clip kept running. A podcaster mangled Juilliard. A lifestyle account photoshopped a halo on the piano. A schoolmother sent Maisie's teacher a link. The teacher replied, "We are a school, not a feed." That night, Lena sat with the raw file open and did nothing to it. She labeled the drive for Graham only. Then she went to work and kept her recorder in her bag. Carter's courier brought heavy paper A Gala for listening. Sienna accepted the meeting. His conference room had lightwood, soft-water family photos angled toward daylight morals. "We need spectacle to fund the quiet," Carter began. "Let me amplify the man's gift." "Then give without taking," Sienna said. "No exclusivity. No cameras pointed at him. No stage directions for redemption. Our sponsors expect visibility. Choose sponsors who don't." He smiled as if writing her into his script. "You'll see the wisdom." "I admire your budget," she said. "Different muscle." She stood. "If you want to help, wire funds to the center and stay home." At the door, his publicist said, "If you stand against Mr. Beck, your board will ask which side you're on." "If I stand with him for the wrong reasons," Sienna said, "I'll ask who I am." Back at Viridian, Olive took her break on the back steps that smelled like onions and rain. A server sat beside her breaking a cigarette he wasn't allowed to smoke. "Are we in trouble?" "We're in a moment," Olive said. Moments pass. People don't. She split a granola bar. Eat. Drama hates low blood sugar. Her phone buzzed. "Sienna. If you take heat for the comp, send them to me. Also more cups and balloons. Olive." Always. She wiped her eyes like she'd been chopping. Graham and Maisie walked home with apples and the quiet that comes from errands. In the apartment, Maisie drew a poster for the community hour, a circle of chairs, a lamp, 2 hands on a wooden lid. She lettered, "No spotlight." All welcome. In the corner, she sketched a red pencil. Promises travel. At her desk, Sienna drafted a statement and deleted it. She scheduled a staff training titled "Quiet Ushers" and slid a card into her wallet with one line, "Choose rooms over stories." Messages blinked. Meetings invited. Money tried to explain itself. Sienna watered the plant from Graham's windowsill. "Grow, but don't climb," she whispered. Her phone rang again, Carter's number. She let it go to voicemail. A final text arrived from his publicist. "If you side with the janitor over a benefactor, what will your board think?" Sienna put the phone face down the way Graham did and let the room decide how loud it ought to be. Some bridges don't need branding. They need people willing to cross in the dark. The second video didn't arrive like a miracle. It arrived like a rumor with a megaphone. It opened on Graham at the Viridian piano, but the audio wasn't his. Someone stitched a phone clip about fees and a line I don't play without a check under his hands. It cut to Sienna at a donor mixer with a caption, "CEO orchestrates sympathy stunt." The thumbnail paused on Maisie's face, turned into bait. By noon, grifter PR plant performative poverty. A blog posted a guest timeline. A podcast lawyer said it smelled like fraud. Sienna's comms director set papers on her desk. "We can file takedowns where we own the audio. But rumor outpaces law. Where'd the audio come from?" Sounds like a donor negotiation from last year chopped. Carter Beck posted a note condemning misinformation and proposing a dialogue. The doctored clip outran it. Outside Graham's building, a man with a DSLR waited. Graham took Maisie down the service stairs. At pickup, a mother leaned over the cone. "We all love a good story," she said. "We love our children more, he answered, buckling his daughter in. They ate grocery store sandwiches at a quiet park. Is it bad? Maisie asked. It's loud, he said. We'll wait it out. By evening, the community center had 3 voicemails and 1 whisper. A man came asking what the janitor charges to feel things. Graham called after hours. Pause my name, he said. Tell people the room is the point. He unplugged the landline and slid his flip phone in a drawer. Olive found him by the back door at closing. It's my fault, she said. I opened the door. I comped the meal. I put you in their crosshairs. Don't apologize for kindness, he said. She pressed a towel to her eyes the way cooks treat a burn. I thought a room could teach them. I forgot how loud money is. The room did teach, he said. Some people cover their ears. Inside, a tray crashed. Olive went back to work the towel tucked like a flag that meant keep going. Lena texted, I can post the raw. It clears you. A second legal letters about context and chain of custody. If I name names, they'll come for me. Graham replied, hold. Use it when it serves the kids, not the feed. Sienna's board called an emergency. Counsel's advice, don't point, don't speculate, don't escalate. We can say we support arts access and condemn misinformation, the lawyer said without inviting discovery. What about supporting a person, Sienna asked. Support, the program counsel said. Individuals add risk. A partner who once praised her instincts now wanted them in writing. Platforms wobble when feelings steer, he said. We wobble when we forget why we built them. She answered, then signed a tempered statement because the program would bleed if she didn't. That night, a man in a tie sold crisis packages at Graham's door. Own the narrative, he said. Licensing morning sofas. We're licensed for quiet, Graham said through the chain. Silence looks like guilt. Sometimes it looks like listening. He closed the door. At the table, Maisie colored inside lines. Is Sienna okay? She is, he said. She knows what to do in rooms full of sound. What do? We make a small room, he said. We keep it honest. He took the gold-stamped envelope from behind a book and set it out. This isn't a secret, he told her. It's just not an answer. She drew a tiny red pencil on its corner like a promise. Morning brought Practical Mercies a counselor asking if they needed resources. The super offering to shoe cameras. A neighbor leaving banana bread. Graham thanked them all and chose the back gate to school. At the curb, a handheld mic appeared. Sir, are you the pianist who demanded money to play for his daughter? The phrasing was a trap. Graham didn't break stride. No questions, please, he said gently enough to ruin the clip. He walked Maisie to the side door. She squeezed his fingers twice. I'm here. He squeezed once, me too. Carter's office sent a new invite, a town hall on listening sponsors listed in bold. Her reply was a sentence, fund the room. Remove the spotlight. Their answer admired her heart and mistrusted her judgment. Lena carried the drive to work and back the small weight of a better truth. Mr. Wexler watched the dining room like a man who could smell rain. He didn't call a meeting. He refilled water. At home, Graham taped a note to the inside of the door. We are not a story. We are a home. He took Maisie to the laundromat, the library, the hardware store, errands that keep a life from unraveling. He bought a latch for the window that stuck. The clerk told him a joke about screws. They both laughed. At dusk, a class parent emailed the listserv that the school should pursue clarity. The teacher replied to all, We are a school, not a feed. The thread stopped. Sienna stood at her window with her phone face down, looking at the plant she had carried into his kitchen. She placed an order for cups and balloons. Graham turned off his phone and laid it in the drawer with tapes and screws that belonged to a thing no one remembered. He looked at his daughter, then at the piano, then at the door. He put his hand on the lid and didn't lift it. Play later, Maisie asked. Later, he said. Because of the noise, he knelt so their eyes were level. Because of you, he said. I won't put my child between the noise anymore. By Tuesday morning, Sienna stopped waiting for better weather. She booked the glassroom, shut the door, and said the sentence that turns meetings into moments. "We decide today." Partners arrived with tablets. Counsel brought a pad. The social lead rolled in slides that assumed stories bend when money asks. Sienna set a red pencil across her notes. "Plan," she said. "Listening. Night. No spotlight. No stage picture. No faces anywhere. 100% goes to the community class, no brand lift, no tears. The poster has 3 lines a date, an address, and no spotlight. If that's too little to sell, we shouldn't sell it." Silence did what it does to rooms used to noise. The flywheel partner steepled his fingers. "Sponsors. Give without being seen," Sienna said. "Anonymous is still generous. 0 logos." "Seat tiers," the social lead asked. "Meet and greet, no tiers," Sienna said. "Pay what you can, no meet and greet. We're not meeting a man, we're meeting a need." Counsel tapped his pad. "Press, no press row," she said. "No phones. Quiet ushers, kind and firm. If someone records, we escort them out with a refund." Another partner frowned. "You're funding an event that hides the product. I'm asking you to stop treating a person like one," she said. The deck clicked to a slide from Carter Beck. Logos cuddled up to italic words about healing. An asterisk promised exclusivity. The comms director spoke carefully. "Beck wants co-presenter credit and video rights for a 7-figure check. The pianist appears once 30 seconds for a bow." "No," Sienna said. "Your stance could be read as hostile to partnership," he warned. "As leadership," she said. "If partnership means light on the one person who asked us not to, we're not partners." Counsel folded his glasses. "Budgets are facts. Then here's a fact." She slid an envelope across the table. "A personal check. Hall security, ushers, interpreters. If we raise nothing, the night still feeds the class." "Announce your gift," a partner asked. "We're not selling a story," she said. "We're making a room." A late arrival cleared his throat. Mr. Wexler stood with a paper cup. "Viridian will cater at cost," he said. "We can feed people and stay invisible." "Assume this," passes the flywheel partner said. "What about the man he already set the terms," Sienna said. She dialed Graham on speaker. "We're building a benefit," she said. "No spotlight. The room raises the money. The program receives it. No poster with your face or name." "Say the rest," he said. "Your conditions are policy. No cameras, no press, no introductions. If you play, it's from the wings behind a scrim into room mics. If you don't, we still hold the night. My daughter, she only comes if you want. If she does, only we and Olive know. Security protects the quiet, not the brand." He let the room breathe. "Then one more condition. No names on the program. Not mine. Not yours. If people need a name to give, send them to the center." "Done," she said. "You'll lose something," he warned. "If there's a loss for the right thing," she said, "let the invoice have my name." He exhaled. "Then I'll play. From nowhere. For the kids. Not the clip. The vote wasn't unanimous. It wasn't close either." "Pilot," the chair said. "Limited." "One night. Good," Sienna said. "That's where quiet starts." Olive built a kitchen out of air. She stacked chafers in a back hallway and recruited line cooks who could plate in the dark. No clatter, she told them. Serve like librarians. She ordered paper cups and balloons so the night would remember why it exists. Lena moved in a different quiet. She met a pro bono attorney and slid a hard drive across a scarred table. Chain of custody, hash check, timestamps. If the lie grows teeth during the show, the lawyer said, "We'll be ready." Sienna trained volunteers in a borrowed classroom. Quiet usher badges, scripts that began with "thank you" and ended with "we can refund you outside." Signs for every door. No spotlight. No phones. "Please listen. We're not policing," she said. "We're protecting." The venue manager, who looked like she'd broken up fights between cymbals and microphones, walked through the plan. House to 30%. Work lights only. Black scrim. If your pianist sits in the wing and plays into room mics, the audience won't see him. They'll think the piano is the air. That's the idea, Sienna said. Between mic check and security briefing, Carter called. Courtesy put her in the corridor. You'll leave a lot of money on the table, he said. Then the table was wrong, she said. We should price the narrative. If we don't, the market will. We price things when we're afraid to lose, she answered. If you want to help wire funds to the center and buy a ticket like everyone else, you're turning down partnership. I'm turning down a microphone pointed at the wrong person. She ended the call. In his apartment, Graham printed his terms on an index card. No names, no light, no faces. For children. He taped it inside the piano lid. Maisie read it and nodded like a foreman approving a blueprint. Will you hear me? He asked. I always do, she said, even when I can't see you. He smiled. That was the point. At day's end, Sienna drafted the announcement. No pull quotes, no hero shot, no sponsor block. Just listening night, no spotlight. All welcome. All proceeds fund free community music classes. Please, no phones, no photography, no names. She hovered over send and felt the weight of what she was refusing: easy money, louder rooms, friendlier headlines. Then she pressed it. If there had to be a cost for doing the right thing, she wanted the invoice addressed to her. The hall opened with the lights already modest house at 30% work lamps in the wings, a black scrim where a curtain might have bragged. Signs at the doors repeated, no spotlight, no phones. Please listen. Quiet ushers offered paper cups for water and if you knew for feeling sound. The box office read, pay what you can. No logos waited to take a bow. Sienna stood in the aisle as people filed in: teachers, a nurse still in scrubs, a delivery driver, a grandmother with a cane. Anonymous envelopes dropped into a metal cash box. Mr. Wexler paced the perimeter like a stage manager counting exits. Backstage, Olive ran a hallway kitchen. No clatter, she told her crew. Serve like librarians. Lena checked a small case, a hard drive, and affidavit timestamps like a spine. When the house settled, Sienna walked to the lip of the stage with nothing in her hands. She waited for the coughs to stop. Good evening, she said. Thank you for a night with no spotlight. We're used to being told who said it, who owns it, what it costs. Tonight we try the old way: no author, no price, but wait. If there is a face, let it be your own. If there is a name, let it be a child learning a song for free. She stepped back. The hall dimmed one shade more, not dramatic, just kind. Somewhere, left of center, a bench creaked. A single microphone inside the piano woke up to tell the truth about wood and wire. The first sound was a breath that chose to stay. Then a low E held like a hand on a shoulder. Then the steady fifth, the porch step he had taught to children. 2 taps. 3. 2. The room learned to put its attention nowhere and everywhere. No one saw him. That was the point. Sienna listened from the wing with both ears and the small steady place that now chose rooms over stories. In the 5th row, a teenager closed his eyes and something unclenched. In the back, 2 hands found each other without ceremony. Midway through the 3rd section, if you could call Graham's thread of memory sections, Lena checked the clock and went to the green room. She slid her drive to a pro bono attorney. He verified the hash and pressed post. Online, a clean video appeared, the Viridian performance wide, uncut, unedited. Caption, for the record, for the kids. Takedown notices began to land on the doctored clip like rain. On stage, the melody found the lullaby inside the birthday tune and carried it without speaking the past. In the wing, Maisie knew exactly when the line came that had always been hers. She set her palm on the scrim as if touch could travel through cloth. The music changed time without changing heart. A hymn tilted its head. A fragment of Bach remembered how to be a father. Low strings drew a boundary no more selling hurt. High keys answered yes to letting hurt teach mercy. Sienna returned to the mic for one sentence. If you came to see someone, she said, I'm sorry. We invited you to hear. The room kept the lesson. Behind the scrim, Graham played like a man keeping a promise. He thought of the envelope behind the book, the index card inside the lid. No names. No light, no faces, for children, and of a voice on a tape. When your hands begin to shake again for music. They shook now in the right way. In the aisle, Mr. Wexler climbed 2 steps as a chord faded. He didn't touch the microphone. 20 years ago, he said a man stopped me in a master class and put a hand on the lid. You don't owe the room, he told me. You host it. Let it leave better than it arrived. Tonight, I'm paying that debt. We promised him no spotlight. We intend to keep it. He raised his hand to bless not beckon and stepped down. The final piece began like a thank you. The left hand laid a road. The right traced it once then, once more truer. He wound the birthday melody into the hymn that meant home, then into 4 measures he had never given a room before the part he didn't play for the woman who asked him not to hide. He played it now without apology and without monument. People cried in different accents. A carpenter rubbed his palm like counting nails. A widow used a tissue that had waited years to work. A child who never sat still made it to the end and didn't know why. At last, the line that had been walking since the first note arrived where it was going. Graham let silence solve the measure. The hall held its breath with him. Then he stood, not to bow, not to be seen, and the stage manager, who had been a pianist, once opened a soft pool of light at ankle height, just enough to keep the first step safe. Graham found Maisie's hand in the wing. Ready, he whispered. Always, she said. They walked out together into the friendly dark. No face was brightened. No phone could make a thumbnail out of that light, but the human eye could and did. The room rose, not with shouts or screens, but with the sound of sleeves and knees, the music of people standing for something they had not purchased. Sienna stood too, hands at her sides, head tipped forward like yes. She didn't clap. She lifted her fingers and shook them, the quiet applause the children had taught. Row by row hands shimmered. The hall looked like wind in wheat. Graham didn't bow. He nodded to the shape of the room the way you nod when you leave a kitchen you've cleaned. Maisie squeezed twice. He squeezed once. They slipped back into the wing, past Sienna's wet eyes, past Lena's empty case, past Mr. Wexler, who had just mailed a debt he'd carried for 2 decades. The scrim stayed black. The room stayed full. No one hurried to the exits. Some nights end with noise. This one ended with permission. Outside, the air felt like a key turning. Inside, the microphone slept. The promise did not. 3 months later, the community room breathed on its own. The crooked flyer was a painted sign, same words, no spotlight. All welcome. Please listen. Paper cups stood like small lanterns. A second-hand rug softened the echo. In a bin, balloons waited for hands that heard more than ears. Wexler wrote a quiet, unrestricted check and refused a plaque. Olive ran snacks, apples, granola, something warm. Lena laid out recorders and taped cords, then pocketed her phone. Maisie wore a volunteer badge. With Ruthie at the upright, she taught how to feel low notes through wood and high notes through wrists and cheeks. 2 taps, then 3, she said, fingers drumming the lid. It means I'm here. Ruthie's laugh lit the bench. Graham tuned by habit, then by heart. He still took a few janitor shifts. The rest of his days were rooms like this. Inside his piano, the index card stayed, no names, no light, no faces, for children. Sienna arrived in a denim jacket and sneakers. She carried cards for quiet ushers and felt pads for chair legs, the useful invisible things. When she and Maisie crossed paths, the child's shoulder slid under her hand as if it had always belonged there. The program had grown not swollen. Tuesdays keys, Thursdays rhythm and listening. Saturdays little hands where the first instruction was always touch the wood and wait. Donations came steady and nameless. Someone made a gift large enough to feel like a promise kept. Sienna logged it. Olive kept stirring. Class began with the lamp on brave, not bright, and chairs in a ring. 2 taps, 3 taps, Graham's count-in. Lena showed a new boy how to feel the string's answer through the side panel. Sienna paired latecomers with empty chairs and then sat among them. The birthday tune visited as a waltz. Maisie matched Ruthie's breath. Graham let the room choose a road and followed. When the hour ended, no one clapped. Chairs stacked, keys wiped. Quiet did the thanking. After cleanup, Olive pressed a covered plate into Sienna's hands. "For you two," she said, "and a 3rd fork for the person you're becoming." "Stay 10 minutes," Sienna asked. "Graham has something." They turned the lamp low. The door clicked. The room shrank the good way more kitchen than stage. Maisie spread a blanket under the bench carpet for bare feet. Graham set a narrow stack of pages on the rack. Title in pencil that remembered being read, "The Rest of the Song." He didn't explain. He looked at Sienna, then at the bench where a life had once asked him to choose. He sat and placed his hands like a man saying grace. It began where the birthday tune leaves off on the note that promises more. Left hand laid a road. Right walked it. A porch light, not a searchlight. Sienna's breath fell into time. There were parts she knew Bach like a backbone, a hymn like a hand on a door frame, and then measures no room had been given. The unplayed place saved like a bill he wasn't sure he could pay. He didn't make grief a monument. He stacked mercy on memory until it made shelter. Olive folded her hands without telling them to. Wexler, by the door, went still. Lena wiped her cheek. Midway, Maisie slid to the floor and pressed her palm to the side of the piano. "I hear it," she whispered to Ruthie. Ruthie set her hand beside hers, 2 taps, 3, 2, keeping time for the wood alone. Sienna remembered the first night at Viridian and the stone question in her chest. What is he hiding? It had turned to a seed, then a plant. It was becoming a tree. Shade was arriving she could not own. She thanked it anyway. Graham turned the last page and no longer needed pages. He reached the measure he had avoided for years, the line ode to a voice that told him to go home and be her quiet. He played it not as confession or victory, but like a man who had learned how to stay and how to leave the door open. He lifted his hands and let the last chord finish in air. No one clapped. Wrong language. Sienna crossed the distance the way you do when the thing you want is already happening. Forehead to forehead, first the playground test of gravity. Then a kiss like an answer that didn't cancel earlier answers. Behind them, Maisie made a sound like a star laughing at a secret. Finally, she said the benediction children give to facts adults complicate. "Name it," Sienna whispered, touching the title. "It's on the page," he said. "The part I never played. For her. For you. For us." Again, he looked at Maisie. She flipped the open-closed sign to closed and turned the lamp down a notch. "Rooms over stories," she said, settling under the bench with Ruthie. He played it again. This time, Sienna heard the life inside it spilled serial mornings texts about balloons, an apology before sleep, the way a house learns the weight of 4 feet instead of 2. At the end, she exhaled like a plane down safe and taxiing. They walked home with Olive's plate in the quiet that follows good work. On the stair, a neighbor slid out a note nice song. I fixed the latch. Everyday mercies had learned each other's names. At the apartment, the plant had pushed a new leaf. Sienna turned it toward the window and laughed at herself for explaining light to something that invented it. Graham set the pages on the piano and taped a small envelope behind the book, not hiding, just remembering what not to sell. He added a line to the index card and smiled when the ink behaved, no names, no light, no faces, for children, for home. Again, Maisie asked, pajamaed and certain. Again, he said. He played the first line. Sienna leaned in the doorway that had been a door to so many rooms. The night moved through the apartment like a careful guest. Somewhere, a hall swept up paper cups. In a kitchen, Olive labeled a box of balloons for later. Lena set her recorder by the bed and slept to Wood, still singing after Hands Leave It. When the last note turned into a silence that didn't feel empty, Graham looked at the two people in his life and said the words he had been writing toward without knowing. This time, he said, "I play to the end." Before we go, a small invitation. If this story found you at the right time, hold the quiet for a second, and think about one moment in your life when someone chose dignity over spotlight. A parent, a teacher, a neighbor. Maybe it was you. What did that moment sound like? What did it change? Share your story in the comments. If you've witnessed a kindness that didn't ask for credit, or lived through a season where listening did more than speaking, tell us. Your words might be the line someone else needs tonight. And let me know where you're watching from. Which city, which country, which little room in the world is listening with us right now? If this moved you and you want more healing, slow burn human stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tap the bell so you won't miss the next chapter. If you know a friend who needs a gentle reminder that presence is louder than applause, share this video with them. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your heart. It means more than views ever could. Until next time, choose rooms over stories, let kindness lead, and keep listening.